Revealed, 7 spine-chilling true horror stories from Reddit that uncover sinister secrets and curiosities. In a suburban Chicago neighborhood, terror lurked behind the facade of every well-manicured lawn. Meet the Johnson family: Mark, Lisa, and their bright daughters, Mia and Sarah. On a typical Saturday evening, they huddled on their worn-out couch, laughter echoing around them like a comforting blanket. But beneath the surface, unease festered. Mark had just lost his job, and the weight of that news clung to him like a shadow. Lisa, desperate to cling to normalcy, bustled about with chores, keeping herself busy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the world outside transformed. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that snaked into their home. Mia leaned closer to Sarah and whispered, "Do you see him? The man in the shadows?" At first, their parents chuckled, dismissing their daughter's vivid imagination. But the chill in the air told a different story. Sweat slicked the back of Mark's neck as he peered out the window. There was Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, tending his garden with a robotic precision, like a puppet on strings. Hours passed, yet he didn't seem to tire. "Maybe he's just really into gardening," Lisa said, unconvincingly. But doubt seeped like ink on paper, darkening their thoughts. The night wore on, an eerie quiet hanging in the air like a noose. Outside, the trees swayed but not a whisper broke the stillness. Then they heard it. A loud commotion shattered the calm, followed by police lights flashing down their street. Mr. Thompson was missing, they said. He was last seen trellising, the officer had shrugged nonchalantly, probably just on vacation. Their minds raced, wondering what kind of vacation left a man lost. Day faded into night, and Mark began to feel the weight of paranoia curl around him like smoke. It was every noise now: a scratching at the door, whispers behind the walls. Each creak amplified dread within him. Where was Mia? What if their neighbors, all dressed in smiles during the day, harbored secrets under the cover of night? Then it happened. Lisa rushed to Mia's room, but it was cold and empty. "Mia!" Panic shot through her like hot knives. Mark joined the search, every second a suffocating reminder that true horror wasn't distant, it lurked within their own walls. Time dragged, each tick of the clock beating louder than the frantic pounding of their hearts. Just then, their phones buzzed, slicing through the thickening tension. An anonymous text, a blurry image of Mia, eyes wide, frozen in terror, standing in front of their house. She was never safe. Look to your left. Their breath caught, ice racing through their veins. Who was watching them? Could it be one of their neighbors? Was it Mr. Thompson? Had they truly turned a blind eye to a lurking evil so close to home? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mark's hand trembled as he exchanged horrified glances with Lisa. No turning back now. They needed to find Mia. But where, oh where, could she be hidden among the smiling facades of their neighbors? Each door they passed felt like a potential trap. As they stepped into the consuming darkness of the street, a myriad of shadows danced on the walls. The quietness amplified their doubts, each heartbeat a countdown to uncovering a secret they were never meant to know. What awaited them in the night? Who could they trust when trust had become the most terrifying illusion of all? Mark and Lisa stepped out onto the street, the chill of the night sinking into their bones like sharp ice. Their breath hung in the air, misty echoes of panic. Lisa's heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her veins, but the shadows seemed to hold their breath, hanging thick all around them. "Let's check the houses," Mark whispered, his voice barely carrying above the rustling leaves. They glanced to their left, where the police lights flickered feebly against the stark darkness. The neighborhood seemed to breathe with them, alive yet lifeless, every window an unblinking eye. Hesitant, they approached the first house, Mrs. Jenkins' place. What if she saw something? Lisa suggested, her mouth dry. Mark nodded, their resolve anchored by a desperate gamble. They knocked quietly but firmly. Silence echoed back, harsh and never-ending. Then a rustle from behind the door. "Mrs. Jenkins?" he called, voice cracking. "It's the Johnsons. We need your help." A pause hung in the air. The door creaked ajar, just a crack, revealing only a sliver of her worried, pallid face. I didn't see anything, no," she whispered, words trembling like a frayed thread. "Please. Mia's missing. Have you seen her?" Mrs. Jenkins pressed her lips together, glancing furtively over her shoulder. "The girl I saw her running towards." Her voice dropped, barely a breath. "The woods." Then her door slammed shut. God, why would she shout? Mark cursed under his breath. "Come on." They turned towards the woods, a gaping maw of darkness at the edge of the neighborhood, branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. A piercing cry startled them. "Mia!" Lisa screamed, voice breaking, panic rising within her. Before Mark could reply, rustling sounds emerged from the infamous thicket, twisting his gut into knots. He pressed forward, wading into the dark. Each step felt heavier, as if invisible hands were pulling him back. The branches scratched at his arms, their gnarled shapes suspicious and menacing. Then they spotted a flash of white through the twisted trees. "Mia!" Mark called, driven by desperation. The woods transformed into a labyrinth of shadows and fear, swallowing them whole. Suddenly, Lisa froze. "Do you hear that?" Mark hesitated and strained to listen. A faint giggle danced through the trees, innocent yet twisted. The sound wrapped around them, intoxicating dread surging in waves. "It's her, it has to be her." Mark shot forward, dragging Lisa along with him, their pace quickening. "Stay close," Lisa whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. Then, a figure rose up from behind a tree, cloaked in shadow. Mark's heart fell as he met the glint of bone-white eyes staring right back at him. The creature's mouth stretched wide into an unnatural grin, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "Daddy!" A voice, a sweet tone laced with terror. "Mia!" He lunged toward the familiar sound, but as he did, the creature turned, the shadow consuming it, revealing a sickly grin. "Come play with us." It whispered, the words curling through the air like smoke. Holding on to Lisa, he shouted, "No! Get away from her!" But the shadows deepened and stretched, and then Lisa tugged him back, paralyzed by the sight of more figures emerging, each one resembling Mia but twisted in grotesque ways, their eyes wide and hollow, laughter echoing, sinister. "Mark! What do we do?" "I don't know." He screamed, the world narrowing into pure terror. Every path led deeper into a nightmare. Then, from the thick brush behind him, a bone-chilling screech. Hope faded, and whispers grew louder, spiraling into a cacophony. "Run!" They turned, bolting in the opposite direction, but the woods twisted around them, mocking their escape. Each step felt like wading through quicksand, every sound amplifying their dread. Just when they thought relief waited at the end of the path, they stumbled upon an unsettling clearing, littered with frayed toys and scattered clothing. "What is this place?" Lisa gasped. Mark's heart sank. The remnants of childhood forgotten, and then, a chilling thought clawed its way into his mind. They weren't just silhouettes in the dark. No. He felt it then, the pins and needles of realization creeping into his thoughts. Their neighbors weren't innocent. What if Mr. Thompson had been more than just a gardener? "Mia!" Mark's voice cracked again, desperation clawing at him. Where was she really? The distant giggle rang clearer now, chilling them to the core. What if she's not Mia? The darkness surged ahead, alive with wicked intent. The giggles echoed from all around, surrounding them. Would they be next? And then, right there, in the middle of the clearing, a low, serious voice broke through the giggles. "You shouldn't have come here." As that voice swallowed their thoughts, Mark and Lisa grasped each other, powerless against the shadow gathering like a storm on the horizon. What awaited them in the darkness? How many secrets lay hidden in their once safe neighborhood? As the night unfolded its twisted plan, a single thought echoed in the silence: no one escapes the shadows. The voice hung in the air like a guillotine's blade, sharp and impending. Mark and Lisa's grip tightened, each heartbeat thunderous in the encroaching stillness. Shadows coiled around them, whispering the secrets of the night. What was that? Lisa stammered, breath hitching in her throat. Mark could hardly speak. It was as though the forest itself had come alive, its very roots pulsing with dark energy. "We have to go. Now." He finally managed to bark, pulling her along. They stumbled away from the clearing, driven by their desperate need to escape. But the woods twisted around them like a living maze. The echo of laughter carried in the air, laughter that made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end, familiar yet sinister. Lisa whimpered, glancing over her shoulder. "Do you think it was?" "I don't know." He shot back, a panic bubbling within him. "Just keep moving." The trees loomed tall and oppressive, their knotted branches clawing at the moonlight. Every sound became amplified: the crunch of leaves underfoot, the rustle of creatures lurking just beyond sight. Was it their imagination, or were they being followed? Suddenly, the giggles rose, swirling around them like a playful tempest. "Mark, I can't take this. Stay close, Lisa. Just stay with me." He turned his focus ahead, straining his eyes for a way out. As they pushed through the underbrush, another figure flickered in the peripheries of the pale moonlight. It darted behind a tree, and then they heard the voice sing-songing. "Why are you running? Come and play. Who are you?" He yelled into the darkness, hoping his voice might hold some authority. But it bounced back, swallowed by the trees. "Mia!" Lisa cried out again, fear choking her voice. They burst into another clearing, this one larger, but just as desolate. The atmosphere was heavy, thick with gloom. Discarded doll heads lay strewn about as if mocking their desperate plight. In the center, a swing creaked faintly, swaying without the touch of wind. "Maybe she's here." Lisa's voice cracked, hope flickering faintly in the pallid surroundings. "Mia." And then they heard its soft, muffled whispers blending into the haunting laughter. Shadows danced just out of reach, blurring into shapes that seemed to beckon them closer. Some indistinct forms flitted between the trees, just beyond sight. Mark felt bile rise in his throat. He started, but the laughter erupted, a chorus of mocking echoes, swirling around them, ensnaring them deeper into the forest's heart. "Come play," the voices sang again, this time with a sharper edge, as if the shadows were closing in on them, hungry for their fear. "We need to go." Mark shouted, but something grasped his arm, cold as death itself. He spun around, eyes wide with terror. It was a child, no multiple children, faces lit with wicked mirth, resembling Mia yet marred by shadow. Their eyes glinted with something hollow, devoid of warmth. "Come on, Daddy. Come play." Mark gasped, adrenaline surging as he yanked free, pulling Lisa into a frantic retreat. The laughter morphed into cries, the cries into howls. They had to get out of this forsaken nightmare. "Turn back." The low voice from before boomed, shaking the very air around them, filled with fury and dread. "You can't run from the truth." Just as the shadows began to engulf them, Mark saw it, a flicker of light, not far ahead. A promise of safety? With raw determination igniting in his chest, he took Lisa's hand. "Run!" They sprinted toward the glow, breathless, heart pounding loudly in their ears. But as they neared, the light flickered, dimming with every step they took. "Please!" Then, as they broke through the thicket, they found themselves at the edge of a driveway, but what lay ahead felt like stepping into a scene from a twisted fairy tale, bright houses illuminated with a deceptive allure. But shadows loomed behind them, a wall of darkness whispering secrets that made the ground beneath tremble. The laughter grew so deafening that Mark felt it vibrate within his bones. What if Lisa whispered just as he turned to face her, fear etched in her eyes? What if they're all in on it? The shadows surged, ready to swallow them whole. He turned back to the house, desperately hoping to find help. But the laughter from the woods shrieked in delight. Come back. Play with us. Mark's heart pounded harder. What awaited them at the end of the driveway? Would they find allies or more horrors hidden behind familiar doors? The night was only just beginning, and true darkness had not yet revealed its depths. The driveway stretched before them, a deceptive ribbon of hope woven through the darkness. Mark took a deep breath, searching for some sign of life, but the houses loomed eerily quiet. Each porch light flickered, shadows dancing like tiny phantoms along the walls. They could be trapped, Mark thought, the terror in Lisa's eyes feeding his own dread. Or worse. The laughter echoed behind them, chilling and relentless. Just go. He urged, steeling himself against the fear clawing at his mind. They dashed toward the nearest house, heartbeats synchronized in frantic rhythm. Mark's palm felt slick against Lisa's, a harsh reminder of their shared panic. Do you think it's safe? Lisa whispered, glancing over her shoulder. The oppressive darkness seemed to swell, and the laughter morphed into wails, a cacophony rising in anguish. I don't know, but we have to try, he shouted, hands trembling as he reached for the front door. It felt warm, almost inviting. He turned the knob slowly, the hinges creaking like a warning. Inside, the air smelled stale like forgotten memories and dust. The living room was empty but for old furniture, draped in white sheets, as if mourning something long gone. Hello. Mark called out, voice echoing into the cavernous silence. Is anyone home? A low murmuring filled the space, barely audible but unmistakably nearby. It was too familiar. Something gnawed at the edge of his mind, but he couldn't quite grasp it. Lisa's voice trembled, breaking through his thoughts. What was that? The murmuring intensified, the sheets on the furniture shifting as if being disturbed by unseen hands. He stepped deeper inside, Lisa following closely but hesitating. No one answered his call, yet the sound grew louder, more insistent. Help us, came a faint voice, distorted as if spoken through layers of ice. Did you hear that? Lisa gasped, eyes wide. Mark nodded, dread curling in his gut. He knew that voice. His heart raced as the implications rushed in. Who had called for help? The voice whispered again, and this time it was clearer. Help us find the truth. He turned sharply, looking for the source. The shadows piled up in the corners of the room, dark shapes that seemed to expand with every breath. The air felt thick, heavy, the laughter from the forest now muted, replaced by the oppressive weight of dread. Mark. Lisa pressed, pointing at the wall. There, the shadows coalesced into forms, vague yet hauntingly familiar. A face emerged, eyes wide and desperate. Mia. No. It can't be. Mark's words fell flat as the realization sunk in. Mia stood there, suspended between reality and nightmare, but something was off. Her face bore stretches of terror, her mouth moving, begging. Help us. Mark staggered back, instincts screaming. It's not her. It can't be. You have to listen. Mia's voice echoed, desperate and pleading, yet twisted, layered with the undercurrent of something far more sinister. What do you want? Mark yelled, feeling a cold sweat trickle down his brow. Find the others before they take you. The words morphed into a howling wind, swirling around them, spinning them deeper into chaos. No. Lisa cried, her voice lost in the rising storm of shadows. Mark felt them closing in, forming hands that reached for him. We have to go. Mark shouted, dragging Lisa back toward the door, but it slammed shut behind them with a deafening thud. Outside, the laughter swelled to a fever pitch, mocking their every move as the shadows narrowed into a relentless grip. You can't escape the truth. Mark turned back towards the darkened room where Mia had been, fear blocking every rational thought. What truth? Who else was trapped? As the shadows thickened around him, he realized this was only the beginning. Whatever waited in the spectral depths of this house was bound to further entwine him in a dark tale of horror. But before he could grasp what to do next, the whispers morphed into a fierce roar. Will you face it? Or will you let it consume you? The door rattled violently, testing the limits of his courage. Mark knew they needed answers and a plan. The real question loomed: what horrors awaited them if they searched for the truth? The door shuddered as if it had a mind of its own, rattling in protest against their frantic desire to escape. Mark pressed against it, his shoulder digging into the wood, but it refused to yield. The shadows danced around him, stretching like claws ready to drag him further into the nightmare. Mark! Lisa shouted above the cacophony, her voice trembling. We have to find another way out. Panic tightened like a vice around his chest. There has to be a back door. A window. Something. He gasped. They stumbled into the dining room, its long table set as though awaiting a feast, the place settings untouched by time, but the real banquet was the silence, heavy, oppressive, thick enough to choke on. In the corner of the room, a china cabinet stood like a sentinel. Mark's heart raced. Help us, find the truth, the words echoed in his mind, taunting him. Check the windows. Lisa urged, eyes darting toward the kitchen with its darkened archway. In that instant, Mark felt the weight of unseen eyes upon him. It was as though the very walls of the house were alive, staring, waiting. He dashed toward the nearest window, but the glass was frozen, hazy as if it had been painted over. He slammed his fists against it, desperation spilling over. Shadows slithered closer. He could almost hear them whispering, their breath cold against his neck. Mark! Behind you! Lisa screamed. He whipped around just in time to see a shadow pulling away from the wall, forming into a grotesque shape. It wasn't Mia. It was something darker, something far more sinister, a gaping maw with jagged edges, eyes flashing like shards of glass. Run! Mark yelled, lunging for Lisa, but the apparition lunged forward, its chilling touch grazing his arm. An icy jolt shot through him, stealing his breath. Lisa screamed, her voice piercing the veil of terror. They stumbled back into the living room, and the shadows shifted, pooling together to create a twisted version of Mia, still begging for help. Find the others before they take you, too. The words slithered from her lips, echoing in the corners of his mind. What was it that they needed to find? Who were the others? Mark, this isn't real. We're losing time. We need to. Her voice faded into a tremor of whispers as the room twisted and warped, the walls closing in. He caught glimpses of faces in the dark, lost, terrified, crying out in silence. They were trapped, clamoring for recognition, their eyes wide with despair. Mark's resolve hardening like steel, he pulled Lisa close. We have to step forward. We'll face whatever this is together. She nodded, fear still etched in her features, but a flicker of determination ignited in her eyes. They edged further into the shadows, stepping cautiously through the debris of forgotten memories, desperate hints of the lives that once filled this house. As they went, the whispers grew louder, the shadows more defined, slinking around them like predatory beasts. Find the truth. Mark's heart pounded as he reached towards the china cabinet, feeling drawn inexplicably to it. He pulled the door open. Inside lay a collection of dusty photo albums, the pages yellowed with age. The images stared back at him, frozen moments of joy turned grotesque in the dim light. Mark! Be careful! Lisa warned, anxiety lacing her voice. The photos warped, faces dripping into darkness, replaced by expressions of agony. You shouldn't have come, they seemed to cry. And then, with a deafening crash, the back door burst open. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted by the moonlight, an unnatural grin stretching across its face. So, you found me, it crooned, each word dripping with malice, beckoning them into a deeper darkness. Mark and Lisa stood frozen, terror coursing through their veins, knowing that to move forward meant facing the unimaginable. They had awakened something terrible, and whatever it was hungry for more than just their fear. What lay beyond that door? What new horrors awaited them as the whispers grew louder, calling them toward an uncertain fate? The moon's pale glow seeped into the room, illuminating the figure that emerged from the doorway. Its grin twisted, stretching far beyond the confines of a human face. Shadows swayed around it, dancing like grotesque marionettes on strings, eager to witness the terror about to unfold. "Welcome," it hissed, its breath a cold gust of wind that wrapped around their skin. "I've been waiting for you." Mark felt Lisa quiver beside him. They were prisoners in their own terror, trapped in this cursed space. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but his feet felt like cement, rooted in dread. The figure stepped closer, its elongated fingers twitching with an eagerness that sent chills racing down Mark's spine. Who are you?" Mark forced the words out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Didn't you see?" It leaned in, the stench of decay wrapping around them. "I'm the keeper of secrets. The collector of souls." With each word, the air grew heavier, thick with a stifling silence that pressed against them like a weight. "You've come to find the truth, but truths are dangerous things. Let us go." Lisa shouted, her voice shaky but defiant. "We don't want any part of this." The figure chuckled, low and raspy, glancing at the photographs scattered on the floor, their faces twisted in silent anguish. "You think you can leave?" It paused, its beady eyes narrowing. "You've already chosen a path. The truth won't let you go that easily." Then, it vanished in an instant, an ephemeral mist dissolving into the shadows, leaving behind a ghostly echo of laughter. Mark and Lisa stood immobile, every fiber of their being screaming at them to escape, yet they felt chained to the horror unfolding around them. "We shouldn't have opened that cabinet," Lisa breathed, her voice barely a whisper, the reality of their situation crashing down like a tidal wave. What if this is all connected?" Mark pulled Lisa closer, trying to stave off the creeping dread. "We need a plan. If we can find the others, maybe we can break whatever hold this place has on us." The thought of other souls trapped here sent a shiver racing through him. "Where do we even start?" Lisa scanned the room, her eyes flitting from the door to the multitude of photographs now littering the floor like fallen leaves in a graveyard. "Maybe we need to focus on the photos. They're their memories. Maybe they can show us what happened here." Mark knelt down, picking one up. The image of a family frozen in a moment of bliss, oblivious to the darkness lurking just beyond the lens. But as he stared longer, their smiles seemed to fade, contorting into expressions of horror, mouths open in silent screams. "Mark, look out!" Lisa grabbed his arm just as the shadows surged around them, reshaping into monstrous forms, lunging with voracious hunger. "They won't let us leave," she screamed, tugging at his sleeve. "No. We can't give in." He held her firm, desperate to keep the panic at bay. "There must be a way out of this." The shadows swelled, creeping closer, encircling them like a living cloud of despair. Their whispers morphed into a cacophony of mournful cries, urging Mark and Lisa to remember. The mirage of the family echoed through his mind, and suddenly, clarity pierced the veil of terror. "Find the others," the words twisted through his consciousness like a serpent. "Lisa. The others. They're trapped, just like us. We can't leave them." Fueled by urgency, they moved towards the door that had burst open, stepping cautiously into an abyss that felt like breathing in smoke. As they crossed the threshold, they could feel the oppressive weight of the house pressing against them, frantic whispers urging them to turn back. "Mark, I stay close." He interrupted, gripping her hand tighter, heart racing as they ventured deeper into the shadowy hallway. A low growl echoed from somewhere deeper in the darkness, rattling the floor beneath them. It radiated a promise of danger, a warning that whatever haunted this house was not finished with them yet. "We need to hurry. We have to find the truth." Mark urged, steeling himself against the uncertainty ahead, and as they pressed forward, stepping into a room filled with more haunting memories, a chilling realization hit him. They weren't just searching for escape. They were searching for answers, and somehow, those answers were entwined in the eerie silence of the house that threatened to consume them whole. Was there truly a way out, or were they destined to reveal the darkness hidden within these walls? Would they find the others, or would they too become whispers in the dark? The hallway was suffocating, the darkness pressing in on them like a vice. Mark and Lisa moved in sync, their footsteps muffled by the thick, carpeted floor that felt more like a grave than a passageway. A rancid stench clawed at their throats, a reminder that they were not alone. What if we're walking into a trap? Lisa's voice wavered, sheer panic flickering across her features. Then we'll confront it together, Mark replied, though he felt the tremor in his own voice. He tried to sound reassuring, but doubt gnawed at him. They crossed into an expansive room, an unsettling silence enveloping them. Dust hung in the air, suspended like tiny specters waiting to awaken. The walls were plastered with more photographs, like eyes watching their every move. Mark felt uneasy that each image was a flickering candle of despair, silently crying for release. Why are there so many pictures? Lisa mused, her hand resting lightly over her mouth as if to stifle a scream. They look familiar. Mark leaned closer to one, his breath catching in his throat. A young woman stared back at him, eyes wide with terror. It was a face he had seen before 2 weeks ago in a news article about a missing person. He stepped back, heart racing. Lisa, look! He shouted. This one, it's from that story. That girl, she went missing last year. What? Her voice was shaky, nearly lost in the swell of encroaching shadows. What were you saying, Mark? Maybe they weren't just victims. Maybe they were like us, trapped here. The realization washed over him, flooding his mind with dread. Suddenly, the shadows coiled tighter, swirling menacingly around their legs. The growl resounded again, louder this time, an unnatural thrust of energy filled with rage. Mark and Lisa stumbled backward against the wall. We need to find a way to release them. He shouted over the grinding sound of the darkness. As if responding to his plea, a figure emerged in the corner of the room, barely visible through the suffocating haze. Clad in tattered remnants of clothing, it resembled a woman, but her face was obscured, shadowed by a cascade of dark hair soaked in sweat. She began to sob silently, wisps of pain dangling from her trembling form. Help me, she whispered, voice collapsing under the weight of despair. I can't remember. Who are you? Lisa called, stepping forward despite Mark's pull on her arm. Do you know how to escape? The woman looked up, eyes desperate and vacant. They can't see me. I'm lost. We all are. Mark's heart raced. No. Tell us where the others are. We can save you. Please. But before she could answer, the shadows lunged. They twisted around Mark and Lisa as the woman's sobs turned into shrieks of horror. You shouldn't have come here. They were engulfed, the darkness snatching hold of Lisa's waist, its cold fingers squeezing in an unyielding grip. Mark! Help! She screamed, her voice shrill, cutting through the oppressive air. He lunged for her, their hands brushing before the shadows yanked them apart. Lisa! Mark bellowed, panic surging through him. All that surrounded him was the haunting moan of the house, the specters of lost souls entwined in a web of despair. He turned to the woman, now a mere shadow in the corner. What do we do? Find the heart of the house, she croaked, her form wavering as if she might dissolve into the darkness. Only there will you find release. But before Mark could process the words, the shadows surged again, consuming everything. The screams of the woman faded into the darkness, and Mark was left without anchor. Lisa, where are you? He yelled, voice cracking. Silence wrapped around him tighter, oppressive and heavy. Mark stumbled backward, heart pounding. He had to find her. He had to escape. Then, a flicker of light caught his eye from the far end of the room, the very end where the shadows twisted and fought for ownership. Could it be a way out? Would the light promise safety? Or was it just another cruel illusion? The house was awakening, and whatever was trapped within its walls was hungry for more. Mark took a deep breath. Hold on, Lisa. I'm coming. With one last look into the suffocating embrace of darkness, he sprinted towards the light, unaware of the tangled fate that awaited him. What else lurked behind the veil of those shadows? And would they find it before it was too late? The light grew brighter with every frantic step Mark took, but the shadows clawed at his ankles, angry whispers curling around his ears, urging him to turn back. An echo of Lisa's voice seemed to drift from the depths, a haunting lullaby distorted by the darkness. Mark, his heart raced at the faint sound. Was it real? Or merely a trick of the house designed to ensnare him further? Lisa! He shouted, voice cracking. I'm coming. The light became a beacon, nearly blinding now. Yet, as he pushed through the suffocating clutches of darkness, he felt a shift, a palpable change. The air thickened, a weight settling upon him like a shroud. As he reached the glow, he stumbled into a room far more expansive than the one before. The light emanated from an enormous crystal pendant, suspended from the ceiling, casting fractured rainbows across the walls. But even the beauty of the light felt tainted, as if the very essence of it was laced with despair. Mark blinked against the light, heart thundering. In the corner of the room stood a massive, ancient mirror, its surface shimmering like liquid. He had the strange urge to approach it, but something deep within him urged caution. In the reflection, he saw shadows darting behind him out of the corner of his eye. Panic gripped him. Had they followed? He turned just in time to catch a glimpse of a figure crawling low, desperately inching towards him with grotesque speed. Lisa! He screamed, frantically scanning the room. Beneath the looming presence of the mirror, he saw a shadow break away from the malignant wave and dissolve into thin air. He felt a surge of anger mixed with despair. Where are you taking her? Mark shouted into the emptiness, but his words echoed back, swallowed by the oppressive silence. The pendant's light flickered as an unseen force swirled around him, the shadows gathering strength. Panic surged as he felt claws scrape against his skin, phantoms moving to reclaim their victim. Find the heart of the house, the woman's voice echoed in his mind, her words reverberating like a haunting chant. Find the heart. The mirror shimmered again, and he peered into it, both terrified and entranced. Images flickered across its surface. Lisa, twisted in pain, trapped just beyond his reach. Her mouth opened, a soundless scream, her eyes wide with fear. No. I'm not leaving you. He lunged for the mirror, gripping its cold edges as he stared deeper, seeking a portal, a way to pull her back from the precipice. He felt an overwhelming urge to shatter it, to break the illusion, but a force held him rooted in place. The shadows gathered tightly around him, tightening like a serpent coiling around its prey. Mark! Her voice drowned in a cacophony of shadowy laughter, a chorus of lost souls taunting him. You can't save her. In a sudden push of desperation, he shouted, I will. I will save her. The air thickened, and then with a powerful crack, the mirror exploded outward, fragments of glass raining down like shards of ice. Mark shielded his eyes, heart pounding, and when he dared to look again, a rift gaped wide where the mirror once stood, and beyond it, a darkness so deep, even the pendant's light faltered. Whatever you do, don't look away, he heard the woman whisper in the remnants of his mind, urgency underlying her tone. Mark's breath hitched. He stood at a threshold not just for himself, but for Lisa. He had to decide. Would he leap into the rift? He took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. Hold on, Lisa. I'm coming. He yelled as he stepped forward, one foot crossing into the unknown. The shadows roared around him, swirling violently as he vanished, leaving only a single shard of the mirror glinting in the remaining light. What would he find on the other side? Would it lead him to Lisa, or was it a trap far worse than he had imagined? The cold enveloped Mark as he stepped into the rift, an overwhelming chill creeping into every crevice of his being. He stumbled forward, the swirling darkness engulfing him in a thick fog of despair. The moment his foot landed on an unseen surface, he felt as if he had tripped into a nightmare, an unseen hand grasping his throat, squeezing the breath from his lungs. "Lisa!" he gasped, his voice lost in the suffocating blackness. Around him, shadows coiled and shifted, whispering secrets that sliced through the silence like knives. He pressed his palms against the chill of the ground, forcing himself to stand. There was no turning back. Not now that as his eyes adjusted, shapes began to emerge from the void. They were twisted outlines, figures flitting just beyond reach, taunting him. A woman with hollow eyes turned to him, her mouth moving in silent screams, her face a mask of horror. He recoiled, feeling bile rise in his throat. Each figure looked like echoes of Lisa, paradoxes of his love twisted into desperation and dread. "Please just tell me where she is," he shouted, anger bubbling up as fear raged inside like a storm. Desperation clawed at his mind. He had to find her, to save her from whatever darkness had claimed her. One of the figures stepped closer, its form shifting, melding into something familiar. Mark's breath caught. "Lisa?" The shadow shook its head slowly, and suddenly, he was jolted back to the reality of the moment. This wasn't her. It was a trick, a cruel fabrication of the house meant to ensnare him further. Without warning, the ground beneath him trembled, and the shadows lunged, a mass of writhing darkness surging toward him. He dodged, heart racing. "Get away from me!" he yelled, panic carving every word. He stumbled backwards, fear tightening around him like a vice, then he spotted a faint glimmer beyond the mass of shadows. The eerie illumination pulsing at the edge of the abyss drew him in. It felt like hope amidst the horror. He sprinted toward it, tearing through the darkness, only to find that the closer he got, the more the shadows split and slithered, reaching out for him. A shriek shattered the air, piercing the chaos. It was familiar, a sound he couldn't ignore. His heart pounded. It was Lisa's voice, drenched in terror. "Mark! Help me!" He pressed forward, the light intensifying, illuminating a hallway that stretched beyond comprehension. The walls dripped with a viscous darkness, the very air crackled with tension. It felt like a heartbeat, the house pulsing around him. "Follow the light, Mark." Lisa's voice rang with urgency, somehow clearer now. His desperation propelled him forward as each step felt heavy under the weight of shadows trying to pull him back. He felt them clawing, tearing at his clothes, their icy fingers grazing his skin. "No! I want to turn back!" he shouted, shaking them off as best he could. Suddenly, he burst out into the light, an expansive chamber, its walls lined with mirrors that twisted reality beyond recognition. There she stood in the center, trapped in a transparent dome of pulsating light, a spectral version of himself flickering at its edges. "Mark!" Lisa cried, her face etched with fear. "Help me break through." The light, but before he could step forward, a shadow whirled around him, a cold breath brushing against his cheek. "You cannot save her," it hissed, its voice a chilling echo that carried the weight of 1,000 lost souls. That he hesitated for just a moment, heart racing, mind racing. "I will," he declared, fists tightening as he realized the truth. This was a test, and he had to face the shadows within. The final pieces fell into place. If he wanted to free her, he had to confront the darkness head-on. Mark surged toward the dome, ready to break the barrier, his heart hammering, unsure if he'd find redemption or destruction just on the other side. Would this be the moment of salvation, or was he stepping into even greater peril? Mark's heart raced as the shadows hissed around him, swirling like a violent storm. Lisa's voice rang louder now, each pleading note cutting through the chaotic whispers. "Mark! You have to believe in the light. Focus on us." He steadied his breath, the warmth of her words filling his chest with hope. No longer was he just a father desperate to save his child, he was a man determined to conquer the dark that had invaded their lives. With a fierce resolve, he stepped to the barrier of light encasing Lisa, feeling the magnetic pull urging him closer. I believe. He shouted, channeling every ounce of love and memory for her, their daughters, the laughter, the cozy evenings. The past flooded his mind, images of Mia running through the sunlight, Sarah giggling as they played in the park. He envisioned Lisa's smile, serene and full of life, anchoring him against the encroaching dread. "Come on, Mark!" Lisa cried, her transparency shimmering with the hope that ignited within him. "You have to break it. We are stronger together." The shadows coiled tighter, shrieking their bitter protests. Mark felt their icy fingers clawing at him, trying to sever his connection to light. They were desperate to keep him from breaking the barrier, to shroud them in sweet darkness. His chest tightened. After every struggle, every fear, he knew they needed to face it together. "Let her go!" he bellowed, muscles tensing as he raced forward. He aimed his fist towards the barrier, the pulsing light illuminating his path. The shadows screamed in fury, swirling violently around him. "You can't hold us forever." With one final surge of strength, Mark swung his fist forward, colliding with the shimmering barrier. For an instant, the world around him lit up like a supernova. The shadows screamed, a cacophony that filled the air with chaos. A blinding illumination enveloped him, and he felt all of the weight of the darkness suddenly shift. The dome erupted, sending a shockwave that resonated through his bones. Mark staggered back as the light surged beyond the confines, obliterating the shadows in its path, shattering the malicious grip they held on the house. "There. Just a little further," Lisa urged, now fully tangible again, her figure illuminated, the fear melting away from her expression. Mark pushed through the remaining shadows that thrashed around them, the heat from the light driving them back. As they collided together, warmth surged. Mark clasped her face, staring into the familiar depth of her love, her smile no longer diminished by fear. "Mark, we have to find Mia," she exclaimed, realization dawning. "We have to save the others." The moment stretched out, each heartbeat echoing the stillness surrounding them. The remnants of shadows sighed around them, fading whispers now diminished to echoes of defeat. They turned toward the doorway. Uncertainty lingered, but with the dark's hold finally broken, light flooded their path, their way home. They stepped forward, toward a distant humming that resonated with the promise of safety and warmth. "Together," Mark said, and Lisa nodded fiercely. Together they crossed the threshold, finding themselves back in the living room of their home, now washed by the soft, morning light. The darkness was gone, the heavy air replaced by the gentle rustle of the wind, filtering through the open windows. "Mia!" they shouted in unison, their hearts pounding with urgency. They dashed upstairs, racing down the hallway, the echoes of their hearts filling the silence. Each room they passed felt lighter, unchained from the shadows of the past. Mark opened the door to Mia's room and gasped. There she lay, safe in her bed, peacefully sleeping, sunlight spilling over her. Relief crashed over them like a cascading wave. "Mia, baby!" Lisa whispered, rushing toward her. Mark knelt by the bed, tears blurring his vision. The dark fear that had gripped them melted away into the light of love. They scooped her into their arms, holding her close, feeling the warmth of life radiate between them, but amidst their joy, a pulse of quiet thundered through the air, sending a shiver down Mark's spine. Outside the window, their neighbors were gathered, faces turned toward their home. Expressions twisted, smiles turned sinister, the facade cracked. Mark's heart sank as he realized the truth: they hadn't escaped fully. The darkness would always lurk, but they had reclaimed their power. Lisa looked at him, their eyes intertwining with fierce determination. "Together, we will face whatever comes next. No more running." "Together," Mark agreed firmly, holding Mia tighter, their little family anchored by love, the dawn breaking before them. As they ventured into the world outside, they knew the shadows would whisper again, but this time, it would be their strength that illuminated the path forward. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. Now it was time to reclaim their lives, and with that light guiding their steps, Mark, Lisa, and Mia walked forward, ready to face whatever secrets still lingered in the shadows together, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help us reach even more people. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters more than ever.